I'm going to do 1 point perspective here. There'll be other tutorials about 2 and 3 point perspective. Now I'm doing the perspective in Photoshop. You can do your perspective drawings or when you do your thumbnail drawings for environment or whatever else and use perspective. You can do it any way you like, but these techniques will be applicable across the different techniques that you use. The really nice thing about perspective in Photoshop is that you can use some of the automated tools to make your life a bit easier, including the polygon tool, okay, and it's click, finger on shift and click again, and then finger off shift, click, finger on shift, and you can do these really nice lines like this. But don't forget to take your finger on and off shift, otherwise you get this. You do click, finger on shift, go to do a line somewhere else, and you'll accidentally join everything up. So off shift for the click, on shift for the click to join the line. So that's a nice way of doing straight lines. It's a nice way of using the polygon tool to get the star grid, we'll call it a grid, the star grid up so that you can follow the lines. Okay, so the polygon tool, shift, and the paintbrush tool, as well as your layers, and that's a really useful way of using Photoshop. So let's get our polygon tool happening. Now I will just click down to show you the numbers in here. Generally that seems to be a sweet spot. Actually, let's double that and see what we get. Star, indent the sides by a lot so that you get an actual star in there, and I'll just delete that and click and drag with those settings in and see what we get. I put my finger on shift to constrain that horizon, and that seems to be quite nice. Let's have a look at that. Okay, yep. So plenty of lines radiating from 1 point, which is why it's called 1 point perspective. Okay, so I could even fade that layer off if it's just too much, and then put another layer on top, of course. Don't forget to name your layers. Alright, that's always helpful. And then we're set up for drawing. So, and save. For 1 point perspective, what you're thinking about are 3 different types of lines, really. So, you've got horizontal lines, okay? You've got vertical lines, alright? And you've got lines that follow our grid or our star. Okay, so horizontal lines, vertical lines, and lines that follow our star, which go into the 1 point of the horizon. Okay, so let's use those to make a little scene here. So I will do a horizon here. Alright, I'll be rubbing some of this out, so erasing some of this. To do something like a simple road, you just follow these lines. Okay. Alright, so you've got a road already, and you could do like a footpath each side, something like that. And basically you could do an awful lot just following these lines and then just setting things up like that. On the left here, I would do a line here. As I said, I'm going to erase some of this stuff, and I will do a line here. Alright, and I'm just going to do some buildings that side. The other side, I'll do some telegraph poles or just some sort of lighting poles. And I'll show you how we work out the distance between the poles. I'll do that this side and I'll do the buildings this side. Okay, so there's our horizon. So say if buildings are going to be here, the other lines that we do are going to be our vertical or our horizontal lines. okay, with everything. So that's the edge of, say, buildings that way, and that's the edge of buildings that way. So I'll show you what I mean here now. Okay, so let's do a line here, which means that's the edge of one building. Let's do a line here, and that's the edge of another one. All right, and we'll erase that. Now you're probably going to do lots of perspective with your different units. Okay, so we'll try, and that's fine, it's good practice because we've all got to do it. All right. I can tidy this up later. So I will show you something a little bit different, like puddles and things like that. So there's our vertical lines. Our horizontal lines look like this, and these are the tops and the bottoms of the buildings. Okay, so these lines follow our grid or our star. Every other line is horizontal, like this one, or vertical. Okay, so let's do like a thin building here. Okay. Now I'm not worrying about the accuracy too much in here. I'll do that a bit more this side. Okay. Let's do that. So again, okay, so either that or that or that. They're your three choices with 1 point perspective. So I'll do just a couple of thin buildings here. Oh. And then I will erase a few things. Okay. So, all right. There you go. So that would be 3 little buildings on that side, or 3 little blocks of something. This could be a road, this could be building, and this side I will do some telegraph poles or just some poles. Okay, so if you follow that logic on this side and we do a few windows, this is how you do them here. Again, vertical or horizontal lines unless they're being affected by this. So you can see here that the top and the bottom facing us of these buildings would follow this line. Let's do a few windows in here. So, see, that is how a window would look there. Okay, let's have a look here. And then follow these lines here. Oh. So these are vertical lines. All right, so that you can see that it's vertical or horizontal until you need some to follow those lines. Okay, if you want some width in here, you just do lots of parallel lines. Okay, and that will give you some of those lines there. Now, all the other lines in here will be horizontal. Okay, so they are all horizontal, so they'll be tucked very neatly in there. All right, now some of the windows here you would see the top of that, you wouldn't see the top of that. Anyway, I won't get into that too much, but it'd be more like that. You'd see the bottom and top of this just briefly. All right. All right. So without zooming in and being a lot more accurate, that's about it anyway. All right. So there you go. All right. So, well, they're your buildings. Okay. So the lines that follow this star These are the face of the buildings that are facing us, the top and the bottom here. The rest of them are vertical lines or horizontal lines. So let's do some poles on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to do let's do a pole. This could be the bottom. Let's have a look here. Let's do a pole here. Alright, that'll do. Let's do a pole there. So that's my light pole or telegraph pole or whatever. Alright, and say the next one is, we'll say the next one is here. Alright. So, I've already got a line here halfway. So this is how you do it. To get an idea of where the next lot of poles are, okay, I might actually do this so that we can have some guidelines here. You make sure that, okay, so you put 2 poles in, you make sure that you've got a center line through everything. Okay, so you pick the center of this, the center of your first pole, and you draw it to the vanishing point. Okay, so you've got a center line. We've already got a center line in because it's the horizon. You go from the top of the first through the center of the second. Alright, like that. Let's see if this will work. Okay, so that's where that is. You go from the top there. Alright, and you keep going. Alright, so the top of there through the center of the next one. Okay, let's see if I can get this. And you keep on going. And that's how you get really good spacing when you're doing something like that. Okay, and then it just keeps going. Alright. So the center of that through the middle, sorry, the top of that through the center. Alright, and then you've got that. So you can keep going. So what I think I'll do is I'll draw over the top of that. And then you get an idea of like a fence or poles or something like that, and you can just keep going and keep going. Okay. So then you get an idea of where everything is. Alright, so there are your poles. Let's erase some of this and we'll have a look. So you're getting an idea there. So 1 point perspective. So obviously you would have different guides as you go. You'd rub sub guides out. You would have some lighter, some darker, etc., etc. Alright, I might drop that again a little bit, give you a bit of an idea. So you can see, I'll just put extra guides or something. You can see that you have a technique for making sure that these sit in the right spot. Okay, most of the lines are, well, some of the lines are horizontal and vertical, and the rest of the lines follow this star here. You can see that the polygon tool is really useful, and you can see that if you click without shift and then click with shift, you can do some really nice straight lines. Okay, so there's some nice stuff you can do there. Alright, so let's do a little bit extra in here just to finish this off. I mean, it is a fairly simple tutorial. I'll do a path here. You can do this. So, you know, I'll put a couple in here. This is going to be a little messy, but it'll show you the technique. So you can do this technique here too. Alright, so Alright, so the top through the center. Okay, so that's straight up and down. Then you can get a sense of, you know, if you were to do a path or something here, that way, just like the other side, you get an idea of where all this path is. Okay, so I won't do a lot of that, but yeah, I'll just take some of that out. You can get a general idea of what we're doing here. Okay. Anyway, you get the general idea there. Alright, so you could do like a path there. Okay. So we're starting to get a path done in there. Alright, okay. So, a little bit of a path there using the same technique. Let's do, really all I'm going to do over here is just the tops of these poles, so it's a really old sort of, you know, old electrical wires or whatever. And all I would do here is just make these, so everything is now horizontal or vertical over here. And all I would do over here is just get them smaller and smaller as we go. Okay. Alright. So we're getting an idea of these just being smaller and smaller. Everything gets smaller as it goes to a vanishing point. Where we've got a technique to position these where they need to go, and you can do things like paths and things down here as well. Just, you know, with the lines being in position, a good position here as they go back. So you can see here that we can just start building up our scene. Okay, I might just do a line through here. So I won't take this much further because I think there's a general idea of how you do perspective here. Okay, it is all about just lines into the vanishing point. Alright, and everything else is horizontal or vertical. So you can see that you can just build up scenes there like that.